Hi there, Warriors, and welcome back to the UruguayanHeroes YouTube channel. And this is a live stream once again. It's been a while that we have been live, and also that Alessandro has been on here. So, Alessandro, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me once again. Yeah, it has been a while, but it also, once you hop back in here, it feels like 2 days have passed. But a lot of good topics to talk about today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not the greatest. Some of them are, but one sad one as well is Diego Godín retiring. Well, it's probably was a good time for him to retire. 37 years of age. We've all seen the regression of Godín and his career in the last few years. But on Sunday, he finally hung up his boots, playing for Vélez Sarsfield in what is quite a futile situation over there. With all the threats from France. But steering clear of this, how did you experience this retirement of Godin?
I think all of us who have witnessed his decline in recent years, it's almost sad to see. I saw the clip of when he walked off the field at the end of the game. It was a very low key game. They lost 1-0. And I thought to myself, a player with this much pedigree who has achieved this much, and this is how it ends.
Yeah.
It felt weird for me. No, I wish he had done it earlier. I wish he had done it with a little bit more dignity. But when you take away the last couple of years and you really look at the big chunk of his career at Atletico and the prime for Uruguay, which was from 2014 to 2018, it's one hell of a career, and in a career that he overachieved, playing at Atletico, conceding less than on average 1 goal a game in a league with Barcelona and Real Madrid. Wow.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. You have to kind of zoom out once again. And it's hard to do in football because the World Cup it's 6 months away now, and for me it's calmed down a little bit. It's still there. You see it in the comments on Twitter, especially. Twitter is really good. I mean, it's not a good representation of like life of how it feels, but you can see the passion of the fans and also the critique of fans for players like Godin. But I mean, like you said, about his career, what he has done. I mean, the funny thing is, and I knew this, but when I was preparing for a video I did yesterday on Godin, I was looking through his career and reading some stories. And I mean, the amazing thing is that when he was 15, 16 years of age, he was an attacking midfielder, or he tried to be anyway. And then he went to Cerro after being cut out of the Defensa Sporting Youth squad, and he was made a makeshift defender, and well, he's never looked back since. And I mean, if you see him play now or throughout the years, you would never even think of him as a number 10. You will see he's a pure defender, and that's what he is, obviously, because there are not many like him right now, and he's not everybody's cup of tea because he is nasty.
Yeah.
But he is amazing at what he does.
He's really one of the last from like that breed of defenders that really tap into the dark arts, the mind games, getting in there. I love that personally because I'm a defender and I do that in real life as well. But a point that you said, I never knew that he played attacking mid. I knew that he played mid, and I thought maybe like a center mid. He kind of reminds me like a Fabinho build type of player. But you could see glimpses of it sometimes when he was playing for Atletico Uruguay. He would make these runs into midfield.
That's true, by the way. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I remember the game against Egypt at the World Cup 2018.
Yeah,
when Uruguay were struggling, and he was getting us forward and making some good passes, some dribbles. So it's still in there. But yeah, it always seemed like a bit funny to me when Godin did that because it seemed out of place. But
it
to
did.
be honest, he
Yeah.
was quite effective at it anyway. So yeah, but yeah, he's now retired. And the interesting thing with him is that he's obviously a big character in Uruguayan football. And he's also a really good communicator. I mean, we can say a lot about him, but he's been representing Uruguay really well on and off the pitch in that regard. So, I mean, he's just become father a couple of months ago, so probably will take some time off and be with his family, which he obviously deserves and should do. But in a few years, Godin is someone that will probably return to football, and I don't know in what capacity, but that would be really interesting and fascinating to see because we know Forlan, Abreu, Lugano, obviously more on the back well in the operating role. But to see these players be integrated into football once again after they stop playing, that's
I,
gonna
I
be
I don't see Godin as a head coach or a primary coach type player type position, but I do really see him as coming in the backroom staff, being a defensive coach, a coordinator, someone who's on the training ground,
yeah.
I mean, he worked with Simeone for so many years to have that amount of knowledge on defensive structure and transition and how
Yeah.
to hold the defensive block and resist high pressure. I think is something super valuable for the Uruguay national team. You mentioned earlier, you said the World Cup 6 months ago. It's passed. It seems like a long time,
Yeah.
and it's funny because this is you. Godin has been a tremendous captain for Uruguay. Now, if you look besides the 2022 World Cup, we don't know the full details of that, so it's hard to judge. Besides that last World Cup, he's been, you know, I would even argue a better captain for Uruguay than Lugano was. Um, but that being said, I wanted to go back to the World Cup because I can't believe 6 months has passed. When that World Cup had finished, I said, you know what? I'm going to throw these highlights away. I'm not going to look at anything. You have that sour taste. Even when I started hearing the Godin news and I started looking, there was a bit of that sour taste, you know, because of recency bias of what had happened. But then Alf, I think their Instagram or social media team released a video of Godin, a really beautiful tribute, and it had the highlights of everything that happened before the World Cup. And I watched that, and I got the emotion came back, and I said, yeah, this is why I love this team, and this is why I will always come back to it.
No, yeah, I'm fully with you. It's also the thing with him, and you made the comparison with Lugano. I mean, they both did the same. Is that they desperately wanted to help the Uruguayan national team because obviously that's what they feel inside. So well, that's something that's really an urge for them. And the hard thing is for them to look at it rationally. So to be honest, he or Godin shouldn't do this. The manager should do this, or his management, whatever. But that's the problem we had. Obviously, Tabares couldn't really do this because he's loyal towards the players, and vice versa. And with Alonso, it was when he collapsed, Alonso, mentally when it came to the World Cup. So yeah, but that's like something in 10 years we will not even be. That would be a side note, would be some little line, which is unfortunately the case. But yeah, it will be a little bit, well, a tiny thing on his legacy, which is obviously so big because Godin is. He's no Suarez when it comes to the marketing or Cavani and when it comes to the worldwide appeal. But what he's done over these years is amazing. And he's obviously paved the way, maybe not alone, but for so many young central defenders coming through now. And completely different. Most of them are completely different, by the way. But still, it's quite nice to see that he is not the last in a long line of big central defenders because there are many more coming now.
Oh, yeah. No, you said it. I mean, look at Atletico. There's Mourinho, the young center back now.
Yeah.
And now Godin gets to be what Jimenez gets to be what Godin was to him, which is now the mentor role for Mourinho. So I just love how things pass by generation and stuff. But there was an argument for 4 years, from 2014 to 2018, that Diego Godin was top three, in some months, the best central defender in the world, top three, top four at least. The winning the La Liga with Atletico, scoring the crucial goal in the new camp, then scoring the goal against Italy in the World Cup, scoring the almost what should have been the winning goal for Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, seconds away. His performance in that 90 minutes obviously gets forgotten because of what happened after the team collapsed, but it was monumental. And then to have that level of consistency and bring it over to the qualifiers where he scored the crucial goal away from home in Bolivia, where Uruguay needed a win and hadn't won there for so long. He scored the crucial goal at home against Colombia. I remember in the 3-0 win. He did it again at home, a crucial win against Chile. Yeah. And then he performed exceptional in the 2018 World Cup. So those 4 years, prime for me.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I remember the goal against Chile. Yeah. I mean, when I think there was a 2-minute clip when there was a lot of arguing with Medel as well, and then he scored that goal, and his celebration was like, oh, that's amazing.
The commentaries in my head, I love that spot. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he was at that moment certainly up there with the best in the world. I mean, obviously we are in favor of Godin. for us, he was probably the best. But yeah, if not the best, he was up there, and that's something, for a player who didn't have the athleticism of other players, the speed, the he's obviously tough and resilient, but he's not a physical specimen, if you can call it like this. So, and that's the thing, his intelligence and like his timing. I mean, his timing in terms of headers, but also in terms of interceptions, in like coming short to a defender or getting his leg in. That's something that he like mastered like no other.
He's the perfect low block type of style
Yeah,
defender. He's not
there's
a
nothing wrong with it as
There's
well.
nothing wrong with that. Yeah, he's not going to
No,
be a defender who plays, high line and uses his speed to clean up. No, no, no. If you're
no,
sitting back and you're holding, Godín's your guy.
absolutely. So thank you for you guys being here. Just started 10 minutes in, covering Godín, and many things to go into still. Jedi says, I hope you do more content on this channel. Yeah, I'm intending to do so. Trying to do some videos on like moves that are happening this summer. For example, Facundo Gonzalez is going to Juventus. That's an interesting one to cover. And with Alessandro doing his live streams, we're just trying to sort out what works. But we would love to do this with the two of us, and also maybe people want to come in. That's also absolutely fine. So yeah, I hope to do this more. Yeah, for sure. George Chumillo says, and Suarez to Miami. Well, we can discuss this next. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was like, I think the Renato Gaucho said it was like a Mexican, TV show, or I don't know what he said, but Telenova. It was a kind of
Novela, yeah.
soap. Yeah, that was it was kind of a soap. It became this. Yeah. Yeah. What is your take on this? I mean, you followed it a little bit as well, I guess.
I'm surprised at how open and how public this became,
Yeah.
and how the coach was willing to go out and say, okay, this is how I feel. And Suarez then went out and said, this is how I feel. And then the president of Gremio went out and said, this is how I feel. Everybody had their opinions. They put it in the public. So really everybody could sort of see the timeline of how things progressed. Does he have a knee injury that's very serious? We all know that. That's true. Does he probably want to leave and go to Inter Miami? That is probably true as well. The difference is that when he had signed for Gremio, Messi was for sure going to Barcelona in Messi's mind. Messi, being Suarez's best friend, would have told him, I'm going to Barcelona, go to Gremio for a couple of years, and then we'll meet back up in the MLS. But when that Barcelona thing falls through and he goes straight to the MLS, Suarez is left in an awkward position.
Yeah. Well, you portrayed it. I mean, you described it perfectly, I think. Yeah, because we didn't really expect this, I guess, because Gremio 2 years, and Gremio have made a big investment in him, obviously, which really, I mean, compromises his position a little bit. And I think the way they've sorted it out now, according to Global Esporte, but not only Global, but more sources. I mean, it's not 100% confirmed, but. Oh, by the way, sorry. It has been confirmed because Suarez came out in the press conference to say it. Is that in 2024, the start of 2024, he will leave Gremio. He's a free agent. He might retire, might go to Inter Miami. But he also admitted that the Brazilian season is quite taxing on his body. I mean, the quotes about him talking about his knee, I mean, he being in chronic pain. I mean, that is obviously not a joke, and he's not being like dishonest about this to force a move. That's really true. I mean, we know Suarez has been struggling with his knee for years.
We can see it.
Yeah, for sure. Indeed, you can. So I think it's what they've done now is the best way to do it. And you know what? It's true that the Brasileiro, especially, is one of the most competitive leagues around. And the difference between that and the MLS is huge. And obviously, he wants to go to the MLS because, I mean, he's with Messi, not only Messi, Busquets, Alba, maybe Iniesta, and it's the lifestyle as well. And who blames him, This is...
Messi and Suarez always said to each other, ever since they were in Barcelona, I want to end the career with each other. We're going to play together. In the interview that he gave recently to Uruguayan media, he said that either he would retire or he would assess what's going to happen at the end of the year. He's not retiring. I can tell you that 100%. No. He just says that. It's a nice way to bridge over. And then by the end December comes, he'll say, this is my last move, and then I'm going to retire. I'm going to go to Inter Miami, and then I will retire. But I think, the way it was dealt with was okay. They came to an agreement, both parties, it seems like amicably. and it's a compromise between what they both wanted. So
Yeah, and so now he's probably going to Inter Miami at the start of 2024. Where does that leave you regarding the national team for Suarez?
he didn't get a
It's
call.
coming up, obviously. Yeah,
He didn't get a call from Bielsa. That's the thing. I think a lot of the motivation to go to a league like Brazil and to go to Grêmio was to stay on the radar of the national team. Suarez has said publicly that that's something he wanted to do. However, I think things have changed, and you can almost tell by the comments that he's making in recent weeks, because he publicly stated, "I didn't get a call, but if I did get one, I think I have more to add to the national team."
yeah,
Bielsa at this moment in time seems like he's not considering, the only legacy player he's considering is Muslera, because he's the only one who's gotten a call. So it looks like we're moving on from Suarez and Cavani. But in my personal opinion, I think Suarez does still have something of value to offer the national team. And actually, there's actually more, just as much value off the field as there is on it, to have someone like him in the locker room talking to younger guys, especially the U20 guys. There's already a pre-existing relationship, as we just saw when he went to go celebrate with them. Really, it's refreshing to see this, because you don't see this in many national teams, where there's such a relationship between legacy players and youth players. I think it's very unique to Uruguay, but I still think there's some value. Throw them on for the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You never know, right? There's still quality there.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, the jury is still out on what Bielsa really wants, because the thing is, so the first squad obviously he was trying players out, and well, we're gonna find out next month when the qualifiers start. And the media obviously portrays this image that Bielsa is not really looking into Cavani and Suarez anymore, but certainly the last year or so, Uruguayan media, I mean, overall, are off on so many things. So that's why I'm still having a little bit of hope, because for me, it's not. I'm a little bit in the middle when it comes to Cavani, because I think the World Cup, I mean, it was really bad. You know, what has given us then, it was nothing. You know, Suarez, yeah, he could have been better, but this final game he played was like fantastic. You know. And with Cavani, I'm not sure if I would call him up again. But with Suarez, like you said, not only the footballing element, but more than that, he would be a brilliant addition to the squad. Because although I love Cavani, he's much less of a leader than Suarez. And Suarez really is this in every sense of the word. So yeah,
or has developed into one. He wasn't like that earlier on in his career, but he really has developed into one, which is, I remember even the first time he captained Liverpool in 2014, I was surprised. That was the first time I saw him and take on any sort of leadership role. But I think, like you said with Cavani, the returns and the output that you're getting from him keep getting less and less and less and less. And it's at a point where he'll play a game, but then he's injured for 4. He'll play 2 games, but then injured for 5. And at that point, it's not worth taking up a spot, especially in an international team where you need to be healthy for 5-6 games on the bounce consecutively. Suarez, I think, like you said, the leadership attributes and what he brings off the field is of value. I think what is definitely evidence, and by now, if people have been paying attention to what Bielsa said in his first press conference, is that Bielsa is not gonna, or he said that he's going to implement his style on this national team. His style, the way he plays tactically, and the pressing demands that require from it. A player like Suarez and Cavani don't fit into that, at least as a starter.
No, that's true. I mean, and there are, I mean, Darwin obviously is going to have a more prominent role starting from the upcoming international break, probably. It is going to be quite intriguing to see how this develop, and certainly to see what kind of road or what kind of decisions Piazza will make, because certainly in the attacking positions, there are no like fixed. You would maybe Darwin for sure. You would say he would be a fixed one in the attack, but they also, I mean, Ocampo, for example, is an interesting one because we have Pelistri, but he still has not found a new club because he's not going to stay at Manchester United probably. Then you have Ocampo, who's an interesting player. Torres, you have Cornovio still in the wings over there at Paranense. So for the first time, probably in many years, we don't really have a good idea of how our attack is gonna take shape.
It's such a mystery box.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, maybe we'll also play more with more midfield players. And I think we probably will abandon the two striker formation, which we obviously have had in the last few years occasionally. And
We've
that,
been wrestling with it for a couple of years since Alonso first came in.
no, it's true. And certainly when you have someone like Arrascaeta, he is, I mean, yeah, he had this game against Ghana when he scored 2 goals, but we went out, so it doesn't really count, you know. But he, with the 2024 Copa America coming up, he should be one of these players you build this team around, along with Valverde and Bentancur, for example. But yeah, so yeah, we will probably be back live talking about this. But first, we mentioned him briefly in the context of the national team. But Cavani has moved clubs. You know, it's Valencia. He started really well, by the way, at Valencia, scoring quite a. I think it was like 5-6 goals in his first 10 games, and then injuries came back, so he was kind of a regular game time ahead of the World Cup and also after the World Cup. And now he's left. I mean, I think he wanted to leave, you know, probably since the end of last season. And he finally has got his move to Boca, which has been in the works for many years. So, yeah, I mean, it is quite something, you know, the presentation, the images with Manteca, Martinez kind of welcoming him at Boca. What do you make of this?
He really held out for a few weeks after the Valencia stuff happened, waiting if anybody would call him from Europe, waiting. There was a desire to really stay in Spain. But unfortunately, the reality is that, you know, teams who are building and moving forward and getting into somewhere more modern cannot afford to take a risk on a player like Cavani because of his injury record, because you know that he's gonna require balls delivered to him as opposed to him, you know, spearheading an attack and whatnot. I think the move to Boca makes sense. The Argentinian league is a competitive league. Obviously, it's only behind the Brazilian one in South America. And if he performs well and regains that form in a league like Argentina, then perhaps he could squeeze himself back into the national team. Currently, in my eyes, he's sort of out of the picture right now. But why not? I think it makes sense. I saw the comparison drawn to the Carlos Tevez move from a few years ago. That's not a bad comparison.
No, yeah. I mean, you just mentioned it, waiting out for maybe some European moves, some European activity. That's a sad thing, you know. I really hope this Boca move works out, because if not, it's kind of a sad end, you know. And absolutely of his own making, and not only his own making, probably also his agency and his brother, obviously, because they have burned a lot of bridges the last few years. And Cavani as well. I mean, I love him, but the way he really, I mean, at United the second season, he was not up for it. He wasn't. I mean, come on, that's just the way it is. And at Valencia, I'm sure he's struggling with injury problems. But when you have 2 seasons like this, and also in these years prior to this, a lot of injury struggles, there's not a team for sure that's going to take a gamble on him, because you have to remember, he still is asking a lot of money because he's Cavani. He's used to this. So at Boca, he's also earning quite a lot of money. It's a good investment for Boca for 18 months. But yeah, I just hope it works out, and to see some beautiful images, just like Suarez at Nacional and also at Grêmio with some beautiful goals. That's what I hope for Cavani, to have some of these moments that we can cherish.
Yeah, me too.
And we can make out, obviously, I guess so. But
yeah, just end off on a good note.
That's the thing, you know. I mean, because that's, I mean, with Forlan, we had this end when he went to, well, a bit kind of exotic places, but then he went to Peñarol, won the championship. So that's a nice way to sign off. But would be really cruel to see a ending like Godín had, for example, for Cavani as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Danny is this 416, but I think you are the same one as I interact with on Twitter a lot. But as much as I love Suarez and Cavani, I don't want them on the national team. It's time to move on with guys like Alvaro Rodriguez, Martins Satriano, Andres Ferrari, and Thiago Borbas. Well, I mean, I get what you're saying, but you still have to realize that although these are players with promise, is that Alvaro is probably not going to be taken into account for the first team this season. I mean, he didn't go on the preseason tour. Um, we have to see what kind of a role he's getting. Satriano, although I like him as a player, yet he played for Empoli last season. He scored 1 or 2 goals. Ferrari has just come to Europe. Thiago Borbas is doing well for Fluminense, but he's not winning a place in the team still. So although these players come with huge promise, they are not players that have consolidated themselves on a level even remotely close to the likes of Darwin, for example, or Suarez and Cavani back in the day. So although, yeah, I would love to see them get the chances, it's still true that they have not made like a really strong case for themselves yet. So yeah, that's what would be my take on this.
Yeah, I think we're entering a period of 3 to 4 years, with the exception of Darwin Nunez, where we have to,
Yeah,
as fans, lower our expectations and lower our perception of what strikers are going to give for this national team. We have been blessed to have gone through the last 13, 14, 15, however many years with strikers like Forlan, Suarez, and Cavani. Never again in our lifetime will we see the national team possess three players of that caliber at the same time. And then have that stretch, which is Suarez and Cavani again. We were spoiled. So our perception is going to be definitely skewed when we're looking at these new strikers coming into the national team. And you said it. You said it well there earlier when you were talking about Alvaro. It's tough because they're not getting continuity. They're not getting consistent playing time for their European clubs. How is that going to translate for the national team? That's the number one, sort of prerequisite that many coaches look for national teams is, are they playing for their clubs? Most of the time. I mean, there's lots of examples where Tavares definitely went against that rule, but yeah, no, a Ferrari is one who has a lot of promise, definitely. And I'm interested to see how he does in Villarreal, and Thiago Borbas as well is one more so. Ferrari and Borbas more so than Satriano. Satriano for me is still a bit of a question mark. He still needs that breakthrough season.
yeah. No, I'm with you on that one because that's the thing as well. When these players are coming through, we all have these big hopes. We all have this promise and these expectations. But unfortunately, I mean, history, well, proves or has proven that many of these players also fail. I mean, Maxi Gomez, when he came through for Celta, I mean, I was like, this is amazing what he's doing there, and look at what he is now. So we also have to be a bit wary. Although I don't want to be pessimistic, but that's just the reality of it. And then he also says Darwin is definitely starting for Uruguay. Yeah, I think I agree with you.
Forgiven.
He obviously will. And I mean, his preseason numbers are good. I mean, let's not draw conclusions from this, but it's his second season at LFC. You're obviously a Liverpool fan. I mean, you must hope that he's going to have this second season like he had at Benfica.
It's all about the second season. We
Yeah.
were talking about the second season before the first season even ended, and the first season numbers weren't even that bad in comparison to minutes and in comparison to Liverpool's situation. So those are two factors that a lot of people tend to forget when they're bashing on him, conveniently, I should say. But in this second season, Liverpool are still going through transition. They're not. I don't think they're going to go back to the world beaters that they were a couple of years ago, but they're definitely going to be improved, and they're going to be higher in the table and closer to the top two than they were last year. And I think Darwin is going to be more integrated and settled in the team now. Whether he improves on those little things such as positioning, making sure that he's not offside too frequently, and having composure in front of goal. A lot of Liverpool fans comment on social media and say that it's funny that the less time you give him, the more chance the ball will hit the back of the net. The more time you give him, the less chance it will. So it's kind of, that's the one area he also needs to improve on his game. But a 25 goal season for Liverpool this year in all competitions is a step up from last year and a step in the right direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Liverpool, obviously, a big rebuild in midfield as well. So, I mean, he's going to be, kind of dependent on this as well, obviously. Okay, Mateo says, do you think Alvaro Rodriguez needs to move out of Real Madrid in order to progress his career? Alessandro, what's your take on this?
Is he 18? He's 18, right?
I think he's 19. Yeah, 18.
Okay. At this moment in time, no. Stay where you are. A lot of young players who are rushed into the spotlight, it's very difficult to maintain and to maintain it and push that into your early 20s. A lot of people tend to forget, a lot of strikers. Look at Suarez, for example. He wasn't destroying heaven and earth at the age of 19 or 18. This is something that happened, 22, 23, 24 years old in Holland, and then from there on. So Alvaro, there's no need to rush. Just put your head down, give it another year or two at Real Madrid. I think the marker is 20. If you're not able to break through at the age of 20, or at least get more minutes, a lot more minutes than what you are now, then I think it is then wise to move and seek out elsewhere. But at this moment in time, I think he's fine where he is.
No, I tend to agree with you on this one, yeah, for sure. Because he's obviously going to get minutes if Mbappe doesn't come. I mean, still he will get minutes then.
Mm-hmm.
But if Mbappe doesn't come, you have Joselu, and then it's him. But I'm sure they will sign a striker, obviously. But okay, then he says he's 19, just 19, but it still remains
That's
the same.
a year.
Yeah. So, and after he turns 20, I think, for example, a move to a Segunda side, or I would prefer that, to be honest, than going to a relegation battling side in La Liga. Or maybe he has to go to Portugal, to like Braga. That would also be good. But we have to see. I mean, for him, it's going to be a case of trying to do the right moves in his career to have the right career path.
Or maybe they loan him.
Yeah, that's like Valverde, for example, to Deportes. And even though it didn't work out brilliantly at that time, probably gave him some good lessons. And we have to see. I mean, Alvaro was some.
Oh, yeah, no. I was just gonna say the problem is that Real Madrid are very competitive with their second team.
That's
true. And that kind of holds him back in a certain way. But I have a lot of confidence in his development because Ancelotti has come out publicly. A coach like Ancelotti, I trust his word, obviously, has come out and said amazing things about Alvaro and is considering him. So
yeah, well, the thing is, now you said the second team. The ideal situation, obviously, would be is that Real Madrid Castilla promotes to the Segunda División, because that's the thing with Ferrari. He is at Villarreal, and it's not the first team, but he's already getting minutes in the preseason. But he's in the second team, or that's the plan anyway. But they're playing in the Segunda, so that's like the best scenario for Ferrari as well. With Alvaro, this is not the case next season. But yeah, let's see. I mean, that's the thing with Alvaro. He's 19, just turned 19, and yeah, I mean, we should have a little bit of time for him and see how he's gonna do this season. Okay. Gu Pisanelli, I think is the full name. I mean, remember it or recognize it from Twitter. Rejuvenating the squad is necessary, but rejuvenating just to get younger, not better, isn't the way to do it. Okay, no, true for sure. If Suarez is currently better than the next best option, he's willing to play him. Yeah, no, I think we both would agree with that. That's the thing,
Yeah. There's one thing to individually compare Suarez to another player, but then you have to also balance that to whether they can fit with the idea and the tactical battle plan that the coach wants to implement, right? I mean, we touched on it earlier, how that's going to affect older players, but yeah, no, it's a good point.
No, yeah, I mean the point you mentioned, that's really thing, and that's, I mean, you're not talking basic on your own rationale, but more basically on Bielsa's rationale, obviously, because that's the thing with Bielsa. He's someone who's so meticulous, and he wants certain characteristics of his player. And Suarez, well, he can't offer that anymore, the pressing from the front. But still, in the capacity of a super sub, yeah, he's still someone you should really have on. And also, he is probably the most reliable of any striker when being put in this position to get a goal in his last 50 minutes. The most reliable of any striker we currently have in our national pool. So that's also something to remember still. Danny says, we need more wingers in Europe besides Ocampo and Pellistri. Our options are quite mid. I'm praying Luciano and Duarte go to Europe this window. Yeah, that's another topic we were planning on touching on, is the lack of moves of the Uruguay under 20 players. I mean, so let's sum it up a little bit. Ferrari has already gone to Villarreal before the World Cup. I mean, Maturo also was at Genoa. Then we have Facundo Gonzalez moving to Juventus from Valencia, which is a nice move, but he was already in Europe, obviously. Ignacio Sosa is moving from Phoenix to Peñarol. And we have Mateo Ponte going from Danubio to Botafogo. But yeah, like Danny mentions, I mean, Luciano Rodriguez, Anderson Duarte, Fabricio Diaz. These are three names, and we can name more. Juan Cruz de los Santos. I mean, not that he was a cameo player for most, but he came into his own at the end of the tournament. These are all players that are still in Uruguay. I mean, it's really frustrating to see, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I made this comment on Twitter a couple of days ago. I'm so fascinated in comparing the transfer moves a year after a team wins their World Cup. So
Yeah.
who won it before? I think Ukraine won it in 2019, and then there was Serbia before that. I'd love to compare. Where are those
Yeah.
players now? England, I think, also won. I think it was England, Ukraine, then Serbia were the last three winners. I'd love to see what happened to those players a year after. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it is obviously shocking to not see at least rumors, at least more reported on that. Hey, Real Madrid or Barcelona or PSG have their eyes on this player or that player. But instead, I think we'd have to. It's one of those things where we're only going to really be able to set real judgment in it in about a year. Um,
Yeah.
but important moves have been happening. I'd love to see for a player like Boselli, for example, go to Europe.
I didn't even
Because
mention him.
yeah,
That's the crazy thing about it. Yeah.
yeah,
And the most annoying, or for me anyway, thing about it is that, I mean, I put it as Twitter as well, and somebody replied with, "Well, that's the problem. I mean, you wanted them to go already, and that's the reason why Uruguayan football is weak. I mean, that's not the only reason, obviously, but the thing is, Uruguayan market. I mean, it allows for players like this to go for less than 10 million. And what surprises me is that when you see these crazy moves in Europe, like for example, El Bilal Touré, I'm not even really sure, or I'm not even really that familiar with him, but I know he played for Almeria,
mm,
scored some goals, and he went for 30 million to Atalanta Bergamo. And that's okay, I mean, fine. But then players like Fabricio Diaz, who's a World Cup winning captain and has already over 100 senior caps, is not getting a move. And I'm not even, I mean, for me, the Barcelona links, I mean, that I don't really care for this. I'm talking about moves to like Porto, Benfica,
mhm.
these clubs that should really be looking into this player. And
Yeah,
the fact that they are not, or I mean, we never know, obviously. I mean, I'm not an insider, but it's frustrating to see the lack of activities as so far.
it's one of those things where you wish you had the insights, the data insights that some of these scouts or analysts have. I would love to be a fly on the wall in some of those conversations where they look at a player like Fabricio Diaz and they say, "Oh no, why not? Why do they pass on that player? Why do they
Yeah,
not go for that player?" But yeah, no, that'd be super interesting. I think there was a point earlier made about wingers, and that's been a weak point for this national team in the last 15 years. I mean, with the exception of Cebolla Rodriguez, I mean,
yeah.
there hasn't been really much going.
And the thing is, as well, I mean, Luciano Rodriguez. Jesus, you didn't even have to wait until the World Cup. Look at the Sudamericano and you buy him. Certainly when
Yes.
it's like for 7-8 million. Well, I mean, we have to wait as well. It's still. I mean, it's the 2nd of August over here for you. It's still the first even. So yeah, maybe this will like heat up. But
We have to put a pin in this conversation and come back to it at the end of the year.
yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I mean, I'm sure they are looking at them. I mean, for example, Boselli. Boselli. I mean, there's a claim to be made that he was the best defender at the World Cup, the Under 20 World Cup. So, I mean, I refuse to believe that he is not. He's short of suitors. And especially when he's got. I mean, his dad is his agent. I mean, the Pablo Boselli was quite well linked with European clubs as well, and so it shouldn't be that hard. So, and I think Luciano Rodriguez is like the same agency as where Darwin and Valverde came from. I mean, Edgardo La Salvia, I think his name is. So, sure, there's something in the works there, but we just have to wait a little bit, I think. Yeah. Um, so yeah, let's move on to. I mean, we also mentioned him quickly, Facundo Pelistri. Uh, he's playing in preseason now for United, which is nice. Which is nice. I mean, he started against Borussia Dortmund. Um, I think the plan is, I mean, judging from the reports, is that he's going to sign a new contract and then he's going to go out on loan. But the thing is, what I see developing now is that he's doing quite well in preseason, and that might lead Ten Hag to keep him on board and to say, well, he's going to get opportunities. But that's a scenario we have seen far too many times now. That this is the sentiment, this is the feeling, and then when eventually the season starts, he's keeps being benched, and he's getting a couple of minutes in the FA Cup, and then there goes another season for Pellistri.
The one key factor in this is that Ten Hag's words are not matching his actions. He's gone out, he said beautiful things, he said he's going to play him more, he doesn't play him. If I'm the player at that point, because I'm receiving words from my coach, but I'm not receiving action behind those words, that's when you say, okay, I'm going out on loan or I'm going somewhere else. I'm not sure how long he has left on his contract. I try, if I were him, I'd try to push for a loan move without signing a new contract. That might, put a little bit more pressure on United to play him or develop him more. But I don't know. No, it's such a weird situation because there's talent there, but the talent hasn't been allowed to fully sort of be out in the open.
No, that's true. And the moves, the loan moves to Alaves didn't work, unfortunately. So yeah, I really hope they can make the right move for all parties. And I mean, for United, the best move would also be for him to go out on loan at a club where he can play regularly, and whether he comes back as a United player or they're gonna go sell him. I mean, the best way is to, for example, to a club in the Netherlands. He was linked to Twente, who's playing European football.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that he could be on a little bit of a higher level still, but yeah, I mean,
just get minutes at this point, consistent every week. That's what I would like.
No, that's quite true, yeah. And I think Gu Pisanelli says here, Cavani was like that too early in his career. Reflexes weren't great, but overthought the finish. I mean, yeah, that's when we were talking about Darwin's finishing. Yeah, I mean, that's also something that comes with age, probably. I mean, but also, for example, Suarez, even though he's been such a great player throughout his career, he still had these little spells when he would overthink it. So it's also in the nature of a player, I think, a little bit, because some players, for example, Ruud van Nistelrooy is someone I think of. They're just cold, and but what also is the case that these players probably will not come up with these crazy finishes where they just go with their feelings, and that's the type of finish Suarez can hit, and also Cavani or Darwin could hit as well, and he has hit, to be honest. So yeah, it's kind of a risk-reward thing, I guess, or the
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay, and now then he says, what was the point of winning the Under-20 World Cup? It's August and no transfers from our Under-20s currently in Europe, to Europe, and I'm seeing some rumors to Brazil and MLS. These kids need better agents. Yeah, it's I get really the feeling you have, man. I really do. But let's hope for some better news in the upcoming weeks.
There's always value in winning the Under-20 World Cup.
That's true.
What it does for a younger generation to see Uruguay at least win something internationally might inspire players to start playing. That's obviously on a broader level. But when I look at the past Under-20 winners, Ukraine's Under-20 World Cup team, a lot of that sort of before obviously what the situation, the war in Ukraine. Yeah. Ukraine's national team were very much improving based off that World Cup performance. Same with Serbia. Serbia had a lot of very strong performances in European qualifying, even went to the 2018 World Cup. And a lot of that was based off the chunk of their 2015 winning team. So there's definitely positives to leverage from this. But like we said before, we won't really understand this fully until we look back at it with more time.
No, that's true. I think that, we probably have to wait a little bit. I mean, obviously, the way the world is now, it's kind of instant gratification. That's the way they want it. But maybe we have to wait a little bit to appreciate this, really, because, so, like I said, we have to wait a few weeks because I'm sure they will move. I mean, Fabricio Diaz also said that he said he's on the move. And Luciano Rodriguez keeps talking about waiting on his agent, being in contact with his agent. So, yeah, I mean, let's see. But the thing is, what I agree, the point I agree on with you on is that I would probably prefer them to stay for 6 months than to go to the MLS, because we have seen it now far too many times when players go to the MLS and they can't go out. The same with the Mexican League. So the Rossi, I mean, it took like 3 years when he came out and when he already was doing well. Cesar Arajo is a player who's doing well at Orlando City now, and I fear for him as well, because it seems to be the pathway to Europe is much easier from Uruguay to Europe than go to the MLS or the Liga MX and then go to Europe. Brazilian league and Argentinian league is better, but the risk is that you get swallowed in the competitivity of that league, because that's hard. Sometimes it's hard to break through over there. Yeah.
Yeah, the MLS thing is complicated. I mean, only you have to be to go from MLS to Europe. You really have to be in that top 2-3% of players in that league. Anywhere below that, and you're going to have difficulty, I think, in my opinion, making the move to Europe.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. Yeah. Okay. Also, I'm worried about Ponte to Botafogo because Vina is the only Uruguayan to make the jump to Europe from Brazil. The rest stay since they are comfortable. Ponte won't reach his potential in Brazil. Yeah, the jury is out on that. Obviously, we don't know, but I do get what you're saying. With that, Arrascaeta is a prime example of this. Um, that's absolutely true. Bruno Mendes is someone who's been there for quite a few years, and he's a reliable defender who I would love to see in Europe. Um, and Ponte, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if he might have earned a move to Europe if he waited a little bit this summer. But yeah, it still is. They're the Brazilian league leaders, so it's a good move for him. But on the long term, yeah, we don't know. It's hard to judge at the moment. Danny F says Nacho Sosa said on Punto Penal that he was about to go to Portugal before Penharol come in for him. Really, is that the case? Okay, well, I mean, it's probably, or it is a childhood dream of his to play for Penharol, so I mean, that's a big thing. But I mean, I remember the links to Family Sao a year ago for him. So yeah, I mean, it's his move, it's his career, and hopefully the door will open up once again. And for if he does well, obviously it will open up.
There's so much time.
Yeah, so that's the thing as well. He's 19. I mean, with Franco Gonzalez as well. I mean, he's been linked to Peñarol as well. I mean, he's 18, 19 years as well. So, and it's not like, I do get what you're saying is that this is the best time to make the move, but in a year's time, the World Cup win is still on there. They know the kind of player they showed in Argentina, and certainly Franco Gonzalez was exceptional in this tournament. So
yeah.
So yeah, okay. Let's have a look at the comment of Matteo. Thanks, by the way, guys and girls, for the comments, and even if you're not commenting, for being here, really appreciate it. And yeah, like Matteo, I think you as well mentioned, or it was Jedi, it was at the start of the stream, is we're hoping to make this a more frequent thing, that people know that we are doing this, to really grow the community, to grow the presence here, so we can have a debate with all of us, because this season, once again, and I said it every season for the last few years, it's probably going to be one of the most exciting ones because of the quantity of players coming to Europe once again. Santiago Mourinho is someone who's new, who might go out on loan or might stay at Atletico. But Andres Ferrari, who we quickly talked about, is in Europe. Ugarte to Paris Saint-Germain, for example. I mean, there are so many players who we will be watching on a weekly basis. And hopefully, to be honest, upcoming season, we will get more goals from Uruguayans. Because last season, Darwin had to adapt. Satriano didn't have his great season. Obviously, Cavani was injured for most. Suarez went back to Europe. And it showed when it came to the top goal scorers in Europe. Because I think Valverde eventually won it, and he had a brilliant season, by the way. But yeah, this also signifies how lucky we have been in the last few years with Cavani and Suarez.
We're in the transition years. That's what it really is, honestly. So we just got to buckle down and
But I'm really hoping for like a Maxi Gomez season when he went to Celta, like this. That will be brilliant. But yeah, we will see. There will be no short of good storylines to follow. That's I think can be assured. Oh, sorry, the comment here from Matteo. One thing that kind of annoys me is how undervalued Arrascaeta is. How he is still playing in the Brasileiro. There aren't even rumors of him moving to Europe. Yeah, I mean, what I would say about this is that Arrascaeta is obviously, I mean, I would love to see him in Europe. I've had this wish for quite a few years, but we also have to realize that Arrascaeta is very well paid for Flamengo. I mean, it's not Europe, but still, it's one of the biggest clubs in South America, and he plays at the Maracanã every week or every 2 weeks. He's so valued there. Brazilian football is, I mean, you can never compare, but it's up there with the top five leagues in Europe when it comes to competitivity. He's probably in the top 7, 8 leagues in the world. The Brasileiro is.
He's loving it. He's beloved, and he's probably on a very, very lucrative and
Yeah,
tied down contract as well. But I think if you want to get into like more of an analysis as to maybe why, bigger teams haven't come knocking for him, is because De Arrascaeta is your natural, pure number 10 free roaming type midfielder. The reality is now in modern European football, among the big teams such as Manchester City, PSG, Real Madrid, Barcelona, they don't play with a player like that in their system. It's the tactical system first. The one who might be closest to it is De Bruyne, but De Bruyne is very, very, very tied down to where he has to be at a certain place at a certain time. And he's an exceptional talent in which sometimes he can get away with sometimes free roaming. But I think that could be a possible reason as to why. That's not to undervalue what De Arrascaeta can bring to the table, but more so a possible explanation as to why bigger teams haven't made that jump. And they know that if you're going to be paying a few, because they'll probably demand a fee upwards to 50, 60, 70 million for a player like that. Is it worth it? No, unfortunately not.
No, that's a really good point you made. I mean, in addition to this, obviously the age. I mean, I think he's 28 now, 29. So that's not helping. And the fee you said, and also Brazilian football is probably one of the only leagues now, or not the only, but one of the few that really allow this type of play of this positional freedom for attacking players. Because when it comes to Europe, I mean, it's like it's really tight and strict. I mean, Pep, although he built brilliant teams, it's like there's no positional freedom there, like we have, like there is in Brazil, and that's why also I really like Brazilian football, because it's really more natural, more organic, when you look at it. And Rascaeta really enjoys himself in Flamengo. So I think it's something, although it is still on your mind sometimes, you really have to stop wishing for it because it's not going to happen, I think. And also, maybe you shouldn't want it to happen because it's good like this. I mean, he's still having a brilliant career. Maybe not as widely recognized, but that's okay. I mean, we had plenty of players like this from Uruguay who had brilliant careers. And yeah, so yeah, I'm fine with it. So let's have a look. Danny says, with all the center backs we have, like Joaquin Sosa, Maturo, Mourinho, Facu Gonzalez, Santi Bueno, I wish one of them was a right back, but that is a position we need improvement on. Yeah, true. Ponte is obviously the one we have hopes on. I would really like to stop this Araujo experiment on right back. But yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny how it is, the amount of left backs we have then and no right back, really.
I think it's not even more so an experiment. It's more so a necessity because there's
That's
no one else that could
Yeah.
do that. And then we've always been blessed. And the funny thing is, when you look back at the last 15 years, the core of the team centrally, from center back to center mid to strikers, have always been strong. I mean, more recently, stronger in the midfield. But it's never been so strong out wide. I think the last time where it was strong out wide was we left that era in 2011, 2012 with Fusile and Alvaro Pereira.
Yeah.
And then we had to force ourselves to when Maxi Pereira was, I think, really the last true great right back that Uruguay have had. And then once he starts declining, then Tavares starts forcing Cáceres out there. And that was it was as dead as it was. I don't even know how to describe it. He had some good games, but I mean, you're not going to win international tournaments with a right back, especially the way the game has progressed now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the back three, yeah. I mean, let's see. I mean, I don't think Bielsa. I'm not sure if he's gonna do this, but I mean, the tools are there to make it happen. Yeah. And quickly, to in this conversation, we can add this comment. Thoughts on Bielsa wanting Naita Nandes on the national team. He could be a missing right back. I mean, the thing with Nandes, I mean, the legal issues is not cleared up. That's why I find it so complex to talk about it. I mean, Nandes, what he's done for the national team whenever he's played, whenever he's called upon, has been brilliant. But having said this, I don't think it's an ideal situation to have him at right back, because even though he had good games, he still, for me, is quite vulnerable when he comes up against a real winger. Um, when he was good, it was in these games against Bolivia, for example, at home. I think he had a really good game against Colombia at home when we were really tight and when we really went for it. Then he's brilliant. But when we come up against these big opponents, I think he gets found out. And you could make this case for many other right back options, but yeah.
I don't know. I think there's something statistically or that's data driven in this sort of Nandes right back
Okay.
situation, because I remember many years ago, Tavares and his backroom staff started implementing data analysis. Or I remember he started talking about it in interviews. Tavares at least mentioned it a few times.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, a few months later, then we see Tavares come out and say, "Oh, I'm actually going to try Nandes as a right back." And there was rumors that was because they looked at data and it said that he could, I don't know, maybe perform there. And then Bielsa, who's also very data-driven, we all know how meticulous he is, then comes out and the rumor is he wants Nandes to be playing right back. So maybe there's something statistically there from what we have a sample size to pick from when he played that year and a half for the national team in right back. And it was okay. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. We know what you're getting with a type of player like this, his heart and his soul. But right back is a necessity and there's a bit of a vacancy there for this national team. That's why we're even considering this in the first place. But you brought up the legal troubles as well. Obviously, we have to let that run its course and see what the decision is there. But given the facts that are currently present right now in the media and what's been reported, I would prefer to not have someone like that on the national team. But it's unfair to call judgment because we need to see what the court says.
No, that's true. We can't really have a judgment of it because it's not cleared up. That's the thing, and that's the awful thing for himself as well. If obviously it's true that there have been false allegations, but yeah, that's why it's a topic we can touch on, but I don't think we are really getting anywhere with it at the moment. So Danny says, what would be your 3 goalkeepers for September? Mine is the Arua, Israel, and Rochette. I'm not sure how would you, but I think there will be. I mean, the thing is, the Arab Arena, I cannot really pronounce it.
I know,
but yeah, for me, he's the most interesting pick at the moment after the season he's had. Franco Israel, we have to see if he's gonna win a spot this season for Sporting. But Ignacio, I would just say Ignacio. He should be one that should be really given a try. And whether you do this in these qualifiers, that's a question. But really, you should have done it in the last FIFA date. That's the thing. It's hard.
I don't know. I think I think the way I view it, especially when you're looking at international squads, there's 3 goalkeeping positions. It's very obvious that one of them is never going to play. The second one's going to have maybe a 20 at most 20% chance of playing, and the first one's the guy you're going with. So the first one that we're going with, based on I think what's been set in this national team, I think first choice is Rochette. Then at second would be De Aura Barena. I can't even pronounce that name. I try to avoid it as much as possible. And then the third one, so I go with those 2 as my 2 goalkeepers, because the first goalkeeper is your starter. The second one, I think, is the spot that you'd give to somebody who you need to develop and be the understudy to the primary goalkeeper, or vice versa. In this case, you have 2 goalkeepers who could very much take the starting position off each other, which is good. But the third goalkeeping position, because that person is never going to play, then you have the trade-off. Are you going to give it to a youngster? What's the point of having a youngster there? Or you can give it to a leadership, a legacy player who can come in and be a calming presence for the squad overall. And you're not losing anything because that player is not going to be playing anyways. So that in that case, I actually give it to Muslera.
No, I think I agree with you, to be honest. Yeah. Because there's no point in having three competing goalkeepers in a national team. That's just pointless.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I think I agree with you on this one. Yeah, but it's gonna be. I mean, that's the thing. Let's hope that either Israel develops well and becomes the goalkeeper that he's been predicted, or he's been. Well, we've not seen a lot of him, to be honest. We've seen him in the Under-20 World Cup in 2019 in the Sudamericano. But we really have to see him in a senior team environment to really judge him whether he really is this goalkeeper that he has been. Well, that he might be. With
Exactly.
Darua Barena, fuck sakes, man.
Yeah, I
Honestly,
know, I know.
but he's did really well for Aruca. So let's hope he can continue this because this is also. I mean, we talked about the right back, but to get the goalkeeper right in the upcoming 5 to 10 years, that is something that every national team needs.
Yeah,
Be
not only that,
successful.
he's a penalty specialist.
That's true. Yeah, I mean,
You need a penalty specialist in
yeah.
the national team. So
No, that's true. I mean, I think he stopped 3 consecutive penalties last season. That's true. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Ajay says, don't know if you talked about it, but De La Cruz going to Qatar will be very disappointing. I saw these rumors about the release clause being triggered by a club from Qatar. That would be really underwhelming for me as well. But for me, it's something that he's let himself into this situation because there has been like 2 or 3 occasions in the last few years where he was reaching the end of his contract at the River, and what he did was he extended the contract for 1 or 2 years as kind of a loyalty to River, and it's nice, it's a good gesture, but you also have to be a little bit selfish in football because when you are reaching his age, and it's his age, and he's 26 now, there are not going to be a lot of clubs that want to invest like 15, 20 million like River asks. So to have to be a free agent at 24, 25, which he could have, it's so easy then to go to a club in Europe because we all know, or every club probably, or many scouts know of his qualities. He already was in the national team by then, so it would have been way easier move to Europe. And now it comes to this, that clubs in Qatar or maybe even Saudi Arabia or MLS can come and come calling and trigger the release clause. But for clubs in Europe, they're looking at the next generation, next batch of talents that they can grab. So it's kind of his own fault. Hopefully, it will not end up in this situation, but yeah, it could really be the case that he goes to Qatar.
no, I think you made excellent points there. I think I never had been more excited about the prospects of his career than when Manchester City were knocking on the door for De La Cruz.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
since that, it's been like you said, you painted it, completely accurately. That he had a window of opportunity. You have to be ambitious. I'm gonna draw a weird comparison. Is that like it's almost like moving up the corporate ladder in a job or something. When there's an opportunity, you have to have that ambition and take it because that opportunity cannot come back to you. I'll even make a weirder comparison. It's almost like if a girl likes you, that window of opportunity is only going to last for a certain
yeah,
amount of time, and if you turn the other way, it's gone. Just
yeah.
like in this case, weird comparison, I know, but
No, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
but he had a window of opportunity. He didn't take it, and now you're settling for less. If he does go to Qatar, that would be very, very disappointing. I put it in the same category of disappointment recently as I know a lot of people, a lot of my Ecuadorian friends were sort of lamenting what happened with Gonzalo Plata, who was a big talent for Ecuador
yeah.
playing in La Liga and Real Valladolid, and then ends up moving to the Middle East to play.
No, yeah,
Very disappointing. So
I mean, that's for sure for the Ecuadorian fans as well, because they obviously have not the quantity we have in terms of talented players. But that's a hard blow to take. Yeah, yeah. For De La Cruz will be the same. Yeah, but yeah, we will see. I mean, long window still ahead of us. But yeah. So Danny says thoughts on Bielsa. Okay, no, sorry, I already addressed the comment. Another comment from Danny says, I remember he sent across to Pereiro to win the game versus Ecuador at home. He played well that game, but then he got torched versus Brazil. I agree with you guys. Yeah, I mean, that game, he was brilliant. I remember that game against Ecuador. I think I confused it with Colombia before. But yeah, I mean, these are games where he really showed his quality and more rather than his quality, his desire. And I mean, that moment for Pereiro. I mean, I think the moment for Pereiro and the moment for Maxi Gomez against Chile. I mean, the shit show we had this qualifier. There were big moments from like unlikely heroes. So yeah.
it's so funny to look back and
No, and
think
we will
about
never
it.
see them in the sky blue again, probably. I'm sure, by
I
the way.
know, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. No. So we already gone an hour, but yeah, I think we can do a little bit more still. So I mean, I'm trying to. I mean, yeah, plenty of topics, but I think I had something written down there, so have a quick look. I mean, if everything comes into your mind, you can
Yes.
discuss it. Yeah. So one thing, yeah. So Ugarte to Paris Saint-Germain. I mean, we never know how genuine these links are, but there was Chelsea, there was Liverpool, Newcastle United, and then Paris Saint-Germain snapped him up for, I think it was like 60, 70 million. Um, what is your feeling about this move? Are you a bit underwhelmed? And if not, what are your expectations of Ugarte for Paris Saint-Germain in his first season?
If he had gone straight from Sporting to PSG without all the noise from the other clubs, I think it'd be a good move. But it's underwhelming because of what we heard was that potentially could have happened, the type of rumors that were out there. I thought he was going to end up at Chelsea. The Liverpool links, I don't think were ever really legit. Just from what I've read from very well connected sources inside the club, since I'm very invested in Liverpool. But the Chelsea ones were very, very strong. And I think to the point where I think a medical was scheduled with Chelsea and everything, but something had broke. So I'm curious what broke down from when he was supposed to go to
Yeah,
Chelsea. But I don't know. I have no idea. I would have loved for that move because I would have loved him to pair up with Enzo Fernandez. I think that would have been a beautiful midfield duo
yeah,
to have Ugarte running around, tackling, doing the dirty work, but also having a bit of ball playing ability. Enzo Fernandez, more of the technical ability, the long passes that he sprays. I think it would have been a beautiful duo in midfield. But I think at PSG, he's in a league that's not very competitive in Ligue 1 in comparison to the other top 5 leagues in Europe. So that is definitely disappointing. I think a player like Ugarte should be in a higher quality league that's going to be testing him more consistently. And we all know the case of PSG, in which when you're playing week in and week out in a league like Ligue 1 and then having to go to the Champions League, it's very hard. It doesn't
yeah,
prep you in the same way. So I hope he doesn't stay at PSG for too long. I mean, I hope maybe this is just maybe he viewed it as a step, as a ladder. I'll do this at PSG first, and then I'll take that big European
yeah.
step after. So
Yeah, it's interesting because Paris Saint-Germain are obviously at a funny spot at the moment. The way I mean, Mbappe probably gonna leave, Messi left, Neymar, you cannot count him in a full season. So I mean, they want obviously to win the Champions League. That's their aim. But it seems like they obviously went to the final in 2019 or 2020, but it seems like they're not getting closer at the moment. They're going farther away. Um, so yeah, I mean, personally, I would have loved to see him to go to Newcastle United. There were also some links there with Bruno Guimaraes maybe, and also because it's just something new, you know. Uh,
right.
Uruguayan making his own story over there. A beautiful club, a traditional club, beautiful stadium. So that's what I would have loved to see. But yeah, if it wasn't Newcastle, for me, Premier League anyway would have been the best place to be because I don't like the way it's portrayed. Like Premier League is this and that, you know, because obviously it's more than anything, it's got to do with the financial power they have. Uh, but it is the truth anyway. It is the truth, you know. The Premier League is the place to be for your players at the moment. Um, but yeah, we haven't seen this.
In terms of marketing, in terms of promotion, in terms
Yeah,
of incentive, financial incentive off the field as both like an advertising gimmick and also as a footballer. I mean, if Champions League winners were just based purely off of the amount of noise a league made in terms of marketing and financial push, and it would be a Premier League winner every single year. But
yeah.
we all know that's not the case. And when
Well,
we
that's
really,
also that's also a nice thing, to be honest, to balance it out a little bit. That
yes, no, that we need the European football needs that.
no, true. Yeah. Okay. So Lisa Smith, hi there. George Andreas Keita did that contract extension with Cruzeiro, then he screwed them. Nico won't do that, I hope. No, yeah. The thing is, I didn't like the way he left Cruzeiro back then. Um, but it also kind of is a little bit of part of football. I'm not the way he did it then. I mean, there are ways to go about things, and that wasn't the way to go for him over there. But still, De La Cruz is also he has to have his own interest in mind. I mean, that's the thing he has to have on his mind first and foremost. And yeah, we will see how this case get resolved. Okay, Ugarte was close to Chelsea, but apparently they lowered their offer of his wages last minute, and Ugarte refused it. Okay, yeah, well, I'm not sure if that was the case. If that was the case, then okay. Yeah,
Interesting.
it is the way it is. I mean, we're gonna see. There's nothing to change about it. And Ugarte is someone who obviously is there in the midfield options for Uruguay. There is Fabricio Diaz coming through, but still there's some little pitbull now in Istanbul at Galatasaray, Lucas Torreira, who's going to play Champions League football next season probably, and he's done really well at Gala. The thing with Torreira, it's such a shame, how his career went, because he went to Arsenal after World Cup after being one of the best midfielders in Italy for
Mhm.
Sampdoria. Arsenal, he started off so well, and then yet Emery just switched him around to that position, that position. So there was no continuity for him there, no like good environment. And also, I don't think he really liked to be in England. So that kind of went sour, went south. Then he got his career back on tracks at Fiorentina after a difficult spell at Atletico, and then he wants to stay. I mean, he's not able to stay. He goes to Galatasaray, which is a big club, but in a really poor league at the moment in European football. And now he's back in the Champions League, so let's hope he can really get back on the rise again. But he's still 26. That's the thing as well. He's 26, and we know he's such a good player, and especially what he's been able to do for Uruguay. He's always been a reliable player. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a perfect squad player, I think, for the national team right now. I don't
It
think
hurts me. It hurts me to hear this, though. It hurts me to hear this.
Yeah,
You're right. You're really right. When Ugarte comes through, Diaz comes through. This is true. But that for me, it's such, and he's also probably one of my favorite players. That's why it hurts a little bit more. But yeah, it's a shame for me to see it. But I mean, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you would maybe think it's a tragic case. It is not. I mean, he's still at a really respectable level.
he
And
had personal problems that he had to deal with as well.
true, that's true.
It was a tough moment for him, but he's okay. Like, and there's still, like you said, 26. You never know. One crazy season, and all of a sudden, he could find himself back in La Liga,
Absolutely.
or maybe back in a mid-table Premier League team.
No, absolutely. You're right. You're right. Danny says, it comes with another comment. Thank you, man. Really appreciate your contribution. Rodrigo Salazar made a good move to Braga, but he was linked to Villarreal in June. I would have loved that move, and I hope Torreira returns. And Emi Martinez was linked with Lyon, West Ham, and Everton too. Yeah, the thing is, I would be really wary, and that's the thing with social media nowadays, and certainly Twitter. I see these links all the time, and with the Emiliano Martinez links, yeah, I think it's just smoke, to be honest. He's done well in Norway, this Denmark this season. He's had a good appearance or two appearances for Uruguay, but these links are they're trying to sell you something, and it's not the case.
He's an interesting player, though. I mean, he has characteristics that I think that are very much favorable to Bielsa. So
he's a player that if it's a Gunda team in Spain, for example, takes a chance on him, it will be brilliant. Just like Benavides went from Independiente to Alaves, when he became a free agent. This is the type of move that is good for him. But to make a step up to Lyon, West Ham, Everton, I'm not seeing it. And it might be completely wrong, in which case I'm sorry, but I don't just see it. And with Salazar, the move to Villarreal, yeah, it would have been good. But to be honest, I like the Braga move better. I mean,
me too.
This move, yeah, it's brilliant, right?
No, I think it's a great move, honestly.
Yeah, and because that's the thing, I think you'll agree with me on this. Is Portugal's the place to be for Uruguayans when it comes to and this is, I mean, he moved from Schalke to Braga, but when it comes to moving from Europe or from South America to Europe, from Uruguay to Europe, Portugal is probably the best league to be. And Salazar, who played for a relegation battling side last season, is now coming to a side that is finished third last season, and he's playing Champions League qualifiers in August, or in this week or next week. So that's a really good way.
It's a big step up. I'd love to see his development, because had he not been injured or gotten that injury, he could have been in the last World Cup.
Absolutely, yeah, it's true. Yeah, and he's a player that I would love to see in the squad next or in September. Yeah. So yeah. Okay, so we've been going on for 75 minutes now. It's been nice. I think it's a good way to end, a good moment to end. So yeah, first of all, guys, I want to thank you for being here, for the comments, for your honest opinions, and getting this conversation moving. Yeah, Alessandro, thanks for being here. I mean, how did you enjoy it?
Yeah, no, it feels good to be back.
Yeah,
Like it's like putting on familiar clothes or like an old glove that fits perfect. Honestly,
yeah,
no, I have a great time. It's obviously super cool to. What I was saying, obviously, before we weren't live, is that what I've really noticed in the past year and a half or so is that we really have sort of fomented this really core group of users on Twitter, like the core community that I really love interacting and seeing familiar faces every day online and on social media. And I really hope we can sort of use that as the base and grow from that going forward. Because like you said, there's a lot of good plans in the works and a lot of potential as well, as much potential as the national team has.
no, that's a good way to put it for sure. And no, and I completely echo those thoughts. Yeah. So yeah, I will be communicating on Twitter what we are trying to do, but we will keep this more consistent. It's been on and off the last 2 years for me on my part, also due to school and work, and the same also for Alessandro, I think. But
Mhm.
yeah, we're gonna try to get some kind of more of a regime or like a strict planning going, and with you guys involved as well. I mean, you're giving your opinion on the chat, but we would also love to hear you on the stream. So yeah, we will certainly get that going, and maybe even the podcast, which we did a few years ago.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also a good medium, I think, to discuss things. Um, so yeah. Anyway, thanks for being here today, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.